Today, we are comparing two $10,000 guitars. This is an indulgent comparison, and I'm so excited to do it, so stay tuned. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name's Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. If you'd like to learn about becoming an Alamo Music Insider, check out the link in the description below for all of the fun we're having over there on Patreon. So this is $20,000 of guitar between the two of us. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
This is the most expensive comparison we've ever done, yes?
Yeah.
Outside of the piano channel. We have a piano channel. Those are always more expensive. So that a $20,000 comparison over there is pretty easy. But these are expensive guitars.
Yeah, they're pretty beautiful. They're very ornate and few and far between when we get to see them. So.
Yeah, they are the presentation series. They represent the pinnacle of what Taylor Guitars makes. They are heirloom quality guitars, and they are dripping in appointments. Now, that might not be your thing, but I think even people who tell me, like, I wouldn't play a blinging guitar, generally look upon these and go, yeah, those are absolutely beautiful. So what's different about these two guitars, Cooper, you have a standard Taylor presentation series model, and what I am holding is a non-standard Taylor presentation series model. This is a PS14ce Limited. Now, you might know about this guitar if you've been watching our channel for any time, because these Limiteds came out last year, and they were very, very few. And before we even got a chance to do these, I did a video with my custom Taylor that happens to share these tonewoods. And that was kind of a glimpse into the 900 series and the presentation series. We're going to get those sold, I think, even before we got the guitar, so I never got a chance to do the video to feature the guitars themselves. And then, as luck would have it, we were able to get one more. And so now I can do a video with it.
Finally.
But this is a lot like that guitar. You can see they look very, very similar. Let's talk about what's the same. So they're both PS14ces. That means they're presentation series. They're Grand Auditorium body shapes, cutaway, electronics. The standard one has the Nouveau inlay. Yeah, that's good. So it's got the Nouveau inlay done in Paua abalone shell and mother of pearl. It's got Paua abalone. You're going to hear me say that a lot. I like it. Paua. Let's just say it more. Paua. It comes off the... Anyways, so you've got the abalone border top, fretboard extension, rosette. You've got inlay down there. That's part of the Nouveau inlay on the bridge, as well as on the headstock. You've got the Goto 510 tuners that we all agree are just the very best. That abalone goes up the side of the fretboard as well. It borders the headstock, which is really cool. Frames that in. As you slowly turn it around, you've got that abalone border around the sides of the guitar, and then finally on the back. Now, the back is very beautiful on this guitar, and the tonewood pairing on this is what's one of the unique things about this. In addition to the ornamentation, the top is Sinker redwood. The back and sides are master grade Tasmanian blackwood. And that's why it just looks ridiculously beautiful. It's like the most delicate flame that's happening on this guitar. It kind of reminds me of a really good, like, Sitka spruce top has like these medullary lines that kind of, it's like that's super, super, super deep kind of rays that are taking place there. And it's done in a very delicate edge burst for the back and sides. But of course, the top is natural, because we want to show off all that beautiful Sinker redwood. Now, the whole guitar is bound in ebony, and it's got the radius armrest to go along with it, just to round out the goodness that comes on that presentation series. And this guitar is basically the exact same thing. The difference is the back and sides, and that is Macassar ebony. Macassar ebony is what I have on my custom Taylor, along with the same pairing of Sinker redwood. And I've talked about Sinker redwood before, but if you haven't seen it, now you can see that review by clicking on the link up there. But here's the story of Sinker redwood. These are redwood trees that were cut down a long, long time ago up in Northern California, before California was like even California. Okay, that's how long ago this happened. And when they would, cut that lumber, they would fell these trees. They didn't have big old trucks like we do now to take that lumber to the sawmill. So they would go to the river. And I think most of this came out of the Mendocino River. But they'd go into the river, and the rivers were pretty shallow, so they would build dams and that would make it deeper. And so they'd float, and it'd hit a dam, and it'd stop, and it'd kind of go down to the bottom, and they'd stack these up. And during the rainy season, when the river was engorged, they'd blow up those dams, and all of that wood would go down to the sawmill. But not all of the wood actually would, because the stuff that sank down to the bottom would get stuck in the riverbed, and the next year would happen again, and the next year would happen again. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this is the look of this kind of chocolatey look, is from it sitting in the riverbeds. Okay, so I think redwood is a great tonewood, period, but this looks so chocolatey and stripy and cool because those are mineral deposits that have deposited itself in the wood over time. And what's also interesting is if you catch it right, you'll see like in the grains of the wood, like sparkly flecks, and it's not finish. That's mineral deposits.
It's very cool.
It's very cool. It's very subtle. You have to catch it in the right light, but it's there. Now, the other benefit of these being sinker redwood, other than just looking cool, is they were very old trees. You know, redwoods grow huge and they live a long, long time, but these are probably some of the oldest redwoods that were there in the forest at the time that they were cut down. And that makes it for very, very good wood to be used for the top. And not all redwood is. Did I ever tell you the story of Andy Powers like breaking a piece of redwood in the wood room at the Taylor factory? He's like, yeah, that's good for furniture, because it's just, you know, it's not all going to be the same. The older the wood is and the more, you know, kind of wild it's grown and stuff, typically the better it is for the top. It's kind of had to, boy, isn't this this is life right here, right? It's had to endure some things in order to come out stronger and better on the other side of it. And then we chop it down and turn it into a guitar. So the redwood has on both of these guitars, it has a signature sound of kind of softening the attack. It's like cedar on steroids. It's got more headroom than cedar, lots of volume, kind of a dark sound to it, and it pairs really well. Now you did a video with this guitar comparing it to like a real inexpensive
A 114, yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
A big difference. I mean, that's
like 100 times more expensive.
Yeah, so what a 114E goes for?
$799.
$799 versus a $10,000 guitar. You know, so it's it was definitely a big difference. I don't know. The thing is, this is such like a rich and complex tone. I want you to describe between, say, back and sides EQing of the Tasmanian blackwood versus the Macassar. What are the things that you really hear the difference?
It's a great question. So again, sinker redwood, regardless of what you put it with, is going to sound kind of rich and dark, I think. Those are some of the qualities. It almost sounds like it looks.
Yeah.
You know, there's this beautiful, rich darkness to it because it's so played in. And when we say played in, that basically means that it has the response, the initial response to your playing, like an 80-year-old spruce top would. That you're not having to really fight against the guitar, that with a real light touch, it's just going to respond to you. Now, it also, because of that, has a tendency of bringing out a lot of overtones and softening some attacks. And before we started, we were just playing around.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I noted with sinker redwood is that the treble notes, I think, are what I love the best. Because a lot of people talk about, the bass and the richness. You know, Tommy, our friend, once said that my custom guitar with sinker redwood and Macassar has the badunkadunk. You know, it's got like that rich low end. But the treble, when you're dealing with cedar or redwood, is like extremely rounded off. So there's absolutely never any harshness.
Yeah.
It's just like this chime. And we talk about bell-like chime. That's a verb utilized to describe sound. If you can describe sound, it's kind of weird, but it is like a bell-like chime without that initial strike.
Yeah.
It's just the ringing is what you hear, and the sustain's incredible. So that's kind of what you get out of both of these with the top. The back and sides change the tone, I think, a lot. That blackwood is actually used also on some other guitars from Taylor, like the 300 series. And it's a great tone wood in and of itself. It's often likened to mahogany, and I think that bodes true here. Now, this is the master grade, very, very best blackwood that is available in all of Tasmania, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it sounds like incredibly good mahogany. There's a very pronounced mid-range richness, but unlike mahogany, it's got some nice overtones that are complemented by that top. And so I really like that you've got this kind of falling off treble, which goes even better with that softness on the treble side. There's no harshness at all. There's a lot of sustain, and you're getting a lot of accentuated mid-range, but you have some overtones like rosewood might have. This kind of looks, or it sounds kind of like it looks. It's really, to my ear, dark sounding.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard different things. I've heard actually Macassar can be a bit of a chameleon. You know, when I had my custom tailor ordered years ago, it was 2014, I had read everything I could. I played one guitar that had Sync Redwood Macassar one time, and Bob Taylor had a Taylor made for him with this wood combination. And the way he described it is what piqued my interest. And he described it as having that Gibson lo-fi tone, but with a sprinkle of Taylor's brightness and articulation. And I'm like, well, that
sounds good to me.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
You know, but it is a bit of a chameleon. I think some players can bring out a lot more brightness with it. I really like the overtones. It's rich in overtones like rosewood is. And I think it has a really strong bass fundamental. Probably not as deep as East Indian rosewood, but very similar to like Brazilian rosewood. And the high end is just incredible on it. And so I don't get as much of a scooped mid-range as you would out of rosewood, but I really kind of think it sits somewhat in that darker, you know, bassier with that treble kind of tone wood. So,
well, it's exciting to hear the descriptions. You got to show them what you mean.
Yeah, so I'm going to put them through their paces, put it to the test. And I did these a little bit different than we do a lot of our demos, just because I'm very drawn to both of these guitars. Again, this one's very much like a guitar I own. And so I just kind of came at these with the Fagilis, with the fingers. And so take a listen, put on headphones if you got them, and see if you could pick up on the nuanced differences between the tone woods of these two guitars. Check it out. All right, so we're back, and what's funny is you were just talking about how good that guitar feels, and that is one of the things, like, all Taylors play really well. I don't know, I can't say that the factory spends more time on these, but it certainly seems like they do. I know they do as far as the inlays goes.
It's like they have to, so every single little thing gets...
Gotta love the back strap on the back of the headstock as well.
Ebony?
Yeah, these are just amazing guitars.
Yeah, it's nice when we have one because, of course, everybody walks in the store and they could have wanted anything else and they zero in on that. And it's sad because everybody falls in love with them and then sees the price tag and you're like, what did you expect, you know? But
well, and let's put it in context. So these are both using exotic tonewoods, and it's dripping in abalone, and yet they aren't that. The price it really isn't that different from like a Martin D45, and Martin D45s are again one of those kind of renowned historical guitars. Has very similar abalone appointments where it's just framed all over the place in abalone, but it's using spruce and rosewood.
Yeah.
And so there, you could argue that if you're wanting something that really is an heirloom quality guitar, and what does that mean? I mean, we kind of bandy about that, right? But it means that it's a really special guitar that you pass down to generations, because guitars can last multiple generations. We hear about that all the time, people inheriting their fathers and their grandfathers' guitars. And these are really special, like a D45 would be. But different because, yeah, it's exotic. It's really doing some cool stuff that you don't see these wood combinations that often outside of small shop luthiers.
yeah, and I mean, how much sinker redwood with, hundreds of years, like, leading into it becoming this top, how much of that are you ever going to
Well, so
see?
If the story's correct, where most of this came from, and this is internet lore, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm going to repeat it, because that's what we do. We're just going to perpetuate the lie if it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is a lie, I don't ever want to know the truth, because I
Yeah.
love the story. But the story is that a guy had lost his wife, and he was in California, and he'd kind of, gone on a trip. He left his, kids behind, and he was trying to find a new place for himself in the midst of his grief. And he's at this like cafe or bar or whatever, and there's these two guys, kind of roughnecker types, and they're sitting there, and they're having beers, and they're talking about they've been trussing this bridge going over, I think it was the Mendocino River. And they were bringing up giant chunks of wood from the auger bits as they're trying to drill down into the riverbed. And so this guy's interest gets piqued, and he starts talking to them. And as he learns more, he decides, I'm going to hire them. And they go out and they just start dredging up wood. They didn't ask anybody about it. Now, this is in the 90s, okay? And when California, because if you know anything about California, if you fart in a steep, breeze and your neighbor smells it, they're probably going to fine you. Love you guys from California. Anyways, stop coming to Texas. No, I'm just kidding. So
JR? No.
Our Taylor rep who now lives in Texas. But yeah, I mean, you can't have a barbecue pit. You can't have an open, So anyways, here's this guy in the midst of California just pulling up wood from a riverbed without talking to the state, the EPA or whatever. So from what I've read, eventually they shut him down, but he'd already gotten like a ton of wood. The story goes he built some bed and breakfast out of a lot of these logs, and sold the rest off to like furniture makers and guitar manufacturers, and Taylor got a lot of it. I don't know how much of that is true, but I will say it does sound, there's a lot of, what does Colbert say? There's truthiness to it, that if that's the case and this came out of riverbeds, I very much doubt that the state of California and the EPA are going to let you just start pulling stuff up out of riverbeds again.
Yeah, that man?
Yeah. Hero.
Albert Einstein. No.
That man, originally from Texas. No, I don't know.
He had the Texas attitude. I found it. I'll just grab it. Yeah.
So yeah, to your point, there already was a limited amount of this, and I doubt they'll ever be able to go back and get whatever's left.
Yeah, I could never imagine a time in which there's like something in production, as a standard piece in Taylor's or anybody else's line that you're always going to be able to get a sinker guitar. That's not going to happen. But these, like I said, they're pretty few and far between. I've probably gotten to see in person, like these two and maybe one or two more. And everyone, like you can even tell this coloring on here is very different from that. Everything is very unique.
This one was that was further down in the riverbed.
Yeah.
This was closer to the surface.
This is the last piece he took out before they shut him down.
The one on my guitar is extremely dark. We call it Cocoa, the guitar.
That's cool.
Because it's so dark.
I mean, they both look good. I do like the darker color paired with this, and that looks nice because it's a little
Paired
iron
with
paired,
the-
you know.
yeah.
But I don't think you can go wrong with any of them, you know.
You said you've only seen a few. In addition to these two, do you know how many presentation series I've played in my illustrious career?
How many?
4.
4.
So yes, they are very rare guitars.
They feel good. They're inspiring to hold, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
and I would love to see, you know, 20, 30, 40 years down the line how they age and like the tone even more so, you know. It's hard to imagine these not like perfect, shiny straight out of the box, but it's also exciting to think about how they will age yours, you know. in
I take
years.
mine out. It's
Yeah.
funny. People have asked me, but yeah, if I'm playing somewhere and it calls for an acoustic, I take it. I've played on stage, and you know, knock on wood, and rather than this one, it's not damaged. I don't think it has a single ding on it. Not that I obsess about that, but I get that people might.
Yeah.
But these are made to be played, and you know, my hope is that in this indulgent comparison we've done, someone might fall in love. Look, a $10,000 guitar is not for everybody, but if you are looking for something that is truly special and you have the funds, there are 2 great options to choose from. So.
Yeah, totally.
Anyways, if you'd like more information about either of these guitars, we have it on our website. It's alamomusic.com. We got the specs there. We have photos. You can call us and get more photos, have us play it for you, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, take home something truly special that would last generations and bring hours and years and joy, just joy of playing for a long time to come. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. And if you, like I said at the beginning, if you want to learn how to become an Alamo Music insider, we're doing some really cool behind the scenes stuff and videos that aren't on YouTube. You can check out the link in our description to learn more. At the end of the day, the very best guitar in the world, whether it's really awesome Tasmanian Devil Blackwood or it is great Macassar ebony, it really is one of these guitars. No, it's the guitar that you're playing. So keep playing. We'll see you next time.